Where'd you get it?
What? You want one? Copy that.
Get away from him! I'm handling this. You drugged me! Made me... Lois, my son.
First Krypton, now Metropolis. People you love tend to blow up, don't they?
Huh? Superman, don't!
That's why I like you, Superman. You're much more gullible than... You think you can have a family, that locking me up will magically reform me, and they'll be safe. So big, so dumb. Now run along, so I can break out of here. I've got lots of planning to do to top this.
That's enough.
I know it's soon, but think you'll ever love again? Maybe you won't kill your next family.
10 years ago, DC Comics and Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment released the fighting game Injustice: Gods Among Us. Developed by NetherRealm Studios in 2013 for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii U, the game would go on to become one of DC Comics' most successful properties, selling over 1 million copies during its lifespan, winning several game awards and launching numerous critically praised comic series and animated film adaptations. Today, the Injustice universe is widely considered to be one of DC's best constructed entities, with thousands of fans eagerly waiting for the announcement of an Injustice 3. But how did this alternate universe come to be, and what made its story and gameplay resonate in the hearts and minds of players across the globe? To answer that, we must travel to another alternate universe, one where fighters from 6 realms must battle in generational tournaments for the safety of their worlds through Fighting games between 2 players have long been a staple within the video game medium, dating back to the 1970s with the Sega arcade cabinet Heavyweight Champ. But fighting games would not reach widestream appeal until the late 80s and especially during the 1990s, with series debuts of Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur, and even the first Super Smash Bros. Game. However, perhaps none would have a greater impact on the American gaming industry than that of Mortal Kombat. First released in 1992 by Midway Games and developed by only 4 people, Ed Boon, John Tobias, John Vogel, and Dan Forden respectively, the Mortal Kombat arcade game would shake the gaming world at the time thanks to its extreme depictions of violent acts, perhaps most famously seen in Sub-Zero's fatality of ripping out his opponent's spine. In fact, so many parents and government officials were appalled by Mortal Kombat's combat that the game was instrumental in the creation of the esrb rating system.
Instead of enriching a child's mind, these games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.
Despite these complaints, Mortal Kombat would go on to become a multi-million-dollar franchise spanning endless spin-offs and sequels in the infamous cult classic live-action films that are still getting made today.
Get over here!
Every game series has its period of decay or identity crisis, and Mortal Kombat was not free of this inevitability. The 2000s, while full of new Mortal Kombat installments, would see the franchise come to conflict with itself. Mortal Kombat arcade machines would cease production, more plasticky 3D graphics would overtake the classic 2D detailed environments, Mortal Kombat spin-offs and other genres appeared, often to the confusion of fans, and trademark fatalities would continue to be defanged. Entries such as MK Special Forces, Deception, and Shaolin Monks all displayed the series' identity crisis. The franchise was in jeopardy of being lost to history compared to the astronomical success of Street Fighter and the ever-growing Super Smash series. Meanwhile, Midway's other games would further its financial woes, with poor sales from games such as 2000 Stranglehold and canceling projects such as the action-adventure game This Is Vegas. At this time, Midway would begin drowning in significant debt in the form of millions of dollars. Desperate to create a game to boost sales and end their debt, Midway would hijack a planned Mortal Kombat 8 reboot project that would have seen the franchise return to its more mature roots and build a new gritty aesthetic based on the then new Gears of War. Instead, Midway would partner with Warner Bros. And DC Comics to begin producing a crossover between the Mortal Kombat and DC universes. The exact reason for this mashup is a bit unclear. Some believe this project to be a late response to the highly popular Marvel vs. Capcom series of fighting games, while some developers claim this was a way to introduce Mortal Kombat characters to a new, younger demographic. In a 2008 interview with Kikizio, then Midday senior producer Hans Lowe supported this claim, stating, "Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe allows us to open up a new generation of kids' eyes to the Mortal Kombat franchise, because kids who are 11 or 12 right now have no idea who any of these people are. They don't know who Scorpion is, they don't know who Sub-Zero is, they haven't seen the Mortal Kombat movies. I don't want to say it's dated, but it definitely has its niche core audience that's not as mainstream as Batman and Superman. So I think people will be intrigued by the fact that Batman and Superman are in this game, and as they play it, they'll see these character models and they'll be like,
who's this yellow ninja in the back? Who is that guy? What's his story?
And as they play it, they'll be like,
oh yeah, this guy's pretty cool.
And it'll give us a lot of exposure. No matter the origins, Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe was released on November 16th, 2008 for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Widely considered to be the true 8th mainline entry in the Mortal Kombat series, MK vs. DC saw the two universes merge after Superman and Raiden banished Darkseid and Shao Kahn into interdimensional portals at the same time. Heroes and villains from both universes would come into conflict as they attempted to determine the origin of universe-breaking phenomena affecting both worlds. MK vs. DC was received moderately well by fans and critics, primarily for its gameplay, which was seen as a return to the classic Mortal Kombat gameplay. Most fans were perplexed by the story and even the premise of the game.
Is that Darkseid?
Darkseid's essence has been fused with evil magic from the other realm. This new being, Dark Khan, is the focal point where both universes freely intermingle. His existence will turn this world into a nexus of evil.
Since this was a crossover with DC, Warner Bros. Required the game to have a T for teen rating rather than MK's usual M for mature rating. This caused MK's trademark fatalities to be reduced, no longer featuring any dismemberment or gore. Instances of blood were also limited, and scenes of gun violence were further censored, with both the Joker and Deathstroke's gunshot fatalities panning away from the victim before they are defeated. But Midway's team was excited for the opportunity to work with the most famous comic book characters of all time, and this game sparked the developer's long history with the DC Universe. However, in 2009, Midway Games would file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but would quickly be acquired by Warner Bros. Later that year. While most of Midway's staff would be let go, its Chicago studio would be absorbed into Warner Bros. Interactive and would later be rebranded into NetherRealm Studios in 2011, in reference to one of the Hellish Six realms home to villains like Quan Chi and Noob Saibot in the Mortal Kombat series. While MK vs. DC failed to save Midway from its financial crisis, it was able to rejuvenate interest in and bring focus toward core elements in the Mortal Kombat franchise, and in 2011, NetherRealm Studios would release their first entry in the MK series with Mortal Kombat in April 2011. Widely considered to be the 9th mainline entry in the series, MK 2011 was structured both as a sequel for longtime fans and as a spiritual reboot for the story and gameplay, striving to bring back the magic that the original 3 arcade games produced. And for most fans, this entry was everything the franchise needed, receiving critical praise across the board and becoming one of the most profitable entries in the series, selling over 3 million copies within its initial release year, becoming the most successful MK game for the time. With the Mortal Kombat series back in gear, NetherRealm would return to the DC Universe to produce an entirely new IP, the likes of which comic book readers nor gamers had seen before.
We got the opportunity to do a game called Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. And with that game, one of the things that really stood out for us was there was an opportunity to do a pure DC fighting game, something that celebrated, things on a superhero scale and level of things. And that was really kind of like the catalyst that got us into thinking, let's do a DC fighting game. And then Justice was really born from that.
Following the success of Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe and Mortal Kombat 9, NetherRealm would pitch to DC and Warner Brothers a concept for their very own DC fighting game, completely separate from the Mortal Kombat universe. In order to try and avoid some of the issues that plagued MK vs. DC, the developers at NetherRealm outlined a narrative in which this game would take place in an alternate universe, so it would make sense that heroes would fight each other without breaking normal comic canon.
With any story in fighting games, we always want to see matchups. We want to see Superman versus Batman. We want to see Flash versus Wonder Woman. We want to see all these things. And so we needed a story that would actually have it make sense that Superman and Batman would be at odds, would be in conflict. And so that's where the whole idea of an alternate universe, alternate versions of these characters, that let us set up a scenario where it made sense that Superman and Batman were adversaries. And that really kind of defined the slice of the multiverse that is the Injustice world, where Superman is a dictator and Batman is trying to take him down. And so that were the seeds of how Injustice started.
Warner Brothers still required this game to be T-rated, but Ed Boon wanted to push this rating to its limit by pushing for a more mature narrative and emphasizing over-the-top action instead of gory violence seen normally in Mortal Kombat. With these concepts in mind, NetherRealm would go all in on creating what was then the most violent and shocking DC universe yet. The story of Injustice takes place in an alternate Earth, known as Earth 49. This Earth experienced a similar history to that of the main DC universe. Superman was the last son of Krypton, Batman recruited multiple orphans into his crusade against crime, and the Justice League was heralded as the world's greatest heroes and proponents of peace. All of this changed when the Joker decided to target Superman instead of Batman for a laugh. He and Harley would kidnap Superman's pregnant wife, Lois Lane, kill Jimmy Olsen, modify some of Scarecrow's fear toxins, and steal a nuke. Batman and the League prioritized searching for Lois, and eventually Superman would find Joker in a submarine off the coast of Metropolis. There, he would be sprayed with the fear toxin and forced to fight the invincible monster Doomsday and send it into space. Batman took the Joker into custody, but found out too late of the clown's schemes. Superman wasn't fighting Doomsday, but was instead tricked into attacking his pregnant wife, where the Joker wired her heart to the nuke placed in the center of Metropolis. In an instant, Superman's world was destroyed in a single day. His wife, friends, city, and unborn child all gone in a single day. Broken and furious with grief, the Man of Steel raced to Gotham, shoving his fist through the Joker, killing him, and this would begin a new dictatorial regime, killing any and all who would commit crimes, even members of the Justice League.
Must have been some party. Superman did this?
Exposed my identity and froze all Wayne Tech assets. Made Bruce Wayne a non-person.
I still can't believe he lost it this bad, even with what Joker did.
In Superman's mind, he destroyed Metropolis.
I'm not following.
Somehow Joker altered Superman's mind so he believed he was fighting Doomsday. But it was Lois.
No.
Joker linked the nuke's trigger to Lois's heartbeat. When she and the baby died, Metropolis died with them.
Superman was vulnerable. Probably for the first time in his life.
His fear won out.
Green Arrow died trying to explain that to him.
Alright, moving on.
This was a world now subjugated under Superman's iron fist, and the only person who could restore freedom was the Dark Knight. Allies were disappearing day by day, and with no other option, this world's Batman sought help from the only place he could go, another universe. 5 heroes were needed in order to access Batman's last chance to subdue Superman, a kryptonite tranquilizer. Aided by this universe's Lex Luthor, who had never become a villain, and instead was Superman's last remaining friend from Metropolis, the Dark Knight and alternate heroes joined together to take down Superman and his army of corrupt heroes before they spread their imperial regime across the multiverse.
I made them safe. Shielded them. But are they grateful? Do they appreciate my protection? No. They whine, complain, side with those criminals. If they prefer chaos, I'll give it to them. Metropolis and Gotham, I'll flatten them. Set an example. Then, I'm finding the dimension these duplicates came from. They'll pay for interfering.
Wait, we're wiping out whole cities? Invading worlds and other dimensions?
You have a problem, Billy.
Well, yeah. It's crazy. It's going too far.
Man's world is incapable of self-rule. We will preserve order.
No. There have to be limits. Even on us. Especially on us.
That's enough!
We can't do this. Have you gone nuts? Lois would never want it. Just...
Anyone else?
In the end, it would take an embodiment of hope to take down this rampaging son of Krypton, another Superman.
You won't terrorize these people any longer. Fear is the only thing these people understand. One day, you'll learn. You'll have to kill me. No, not even you. There's been enough killing.
When DC first heard of this concept, they were excited and immediately greenlit Injustice's production.
Yeah, when we first heard this idea, we were actually really thrilled because it very much aligned or mirrored our own ambition with something we called the New 52 in publishing. That was like 2011, and it was a soft reset of the universe where we introduced sort of updated origins, new costumes, new looks for the characters, dialed back their experience, really just contemporizing and modernizing the mythology. And we also love the fact that this game leaned into the multiverse, which we feel is really one of our competitive advantages. This notion that there are different versions that are characters in alternate realities really allowed them to have the creative freedom to tell this amazing story.
The early 2010s saw the main DC universe become rebooted following the Flashpoint event. The New 52 was designed to gain new readership by restarting the DC universe and setting it in the present day, while making most stories more mature as opposed to previous, sometimes overly simple narratives. While some fans opposed this change of tone for some characters, especially Superman, the New 52 was ultimately a success, going on to bring in thousands of new readers, especially through the Batman, Green Lantern, and Flash series of comics. With the support of DC and the great timing aligning with the launch of the New 52, DC's publishing line released a then online exclusive prequel comic series that would further delve into the events that led to the Injustice game. written by Tom Taylor and later by Brian Buccellato, and illustrated by Mike Miller, Bruno Redondo, and Tom Denarek. The Injustice comic was originally designed to take place 1 year before the events of the game, but the massive success and appeal of the series led to DC extending the series for 73 issues, divided up into 5 volumes, each volume representing each year Superman's regime ruled. Some shocking highlights of the prequel comic series include, but are not limited to, Batman's son Damian Wayne killing Nightwing and then joining with the tyrannical Superman, Alfred beating the crap-ass Superman thanks to using a Kryptonian power pill, Superman wielding a yellow power ring fueled by the entire world's fear of the Man of Steel, Batman chooses to become possessed by the demon Etrigan, the Greek pantheon challenges Superman for command over the Earth, and people begin to view Joker as a martyr after Superman bans all public assembly. If anyone wants to read a DC comic story with lasting epic consequences, they've gotta check out Injustice years 1 through 5. The series is easily one of DC's best stories released in the 2010s, going on to win IGN's People's Choice Award for Best Digital Comic Series in 2013 and 14, and winning the Best Digital Comic Award in 2014. Injustice's narrative wasn't its only crowning achievement, however, as the gameplay was NetherRealm's most innovative yet, thanks to a new multi-thread rendering engine. The button layout for attacks and combos were made more streamlined so that both new and experienced fighting game players were able to play Injustice with ease. Online multiplayer was improved after connection issues plagued the launch of MK9, and fatalities were replaced with cinematic super moves unique to each character in the roster.
I was actually very excited to hear that we were doing a DC exclusive game. One of the first things we did with the development of Injustice was develop the first super move, and that move was Superman's knock you into space. I remember when we first started talking about it, I was like, wow, that could be a little silly and a little bit wacky, but once we got it together and saw it actually in the game, it was like, wow, that's freaking cool. We have to keep thinking about that, and that super move itself was used as the bar for all the following ones, and we're like, we gotta top that, we gotta top that one.
Injustice would go on to release several DLC characters for the game following its success, including the bounty hunter Lobo, General Zod, Martian Manhunter, Zatanna, Batgirl, and even Mortal Kombat's very own Scorpion, which was the start of a long-running tradition having MK and DC DLC characters cross over in future titles, with Sub-Zero and Raiden appearing in Injustice 2, and the Joker appearing in Mortal Kombat 11.
No more jokes, no more laughs. Sounds like you've got a case of the grumps. I fucking hate clowns.
Still, not everyone was too excited about Injustice's choice of DLC.
This is a big scoop for you kids. Get the cheese out of your eyes, because General Zod is in town.
You can download this in July.
Mother, quiet! I'm downloading General Zod!
Despite the widespread success of Injustice, development on a sequel would halt when the 8th generation of gaming consoles began. Instead, NetherRealm focused their attention back to Mortal Kombat, resulting in the release of Mortal Kombat X in April 2015 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Meanwhile, Injustice's narrative continued to make waves throughout the entertainment world, with WB releasing both a mobile and an arcade version of Injustice 1 to various app stores and entertainment centers. The world of Injustice continued to be featured in various comics, including the widely maligned multiversal comic event Convergence and a spin-off series titled Ground Zero that further delved into the events of the game itself. Perhaps Injustice's biggest influence was that on the silver screen. Zack Snyder, the director best known for coordinating the first few films of the dceu and adapting the comic book series 300, was directly inspired by Injustice for his portrayal of Superman and Batman, especially seen in the nightmare sequence in 2016 Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice.
She was my world, and you took her from me.
Eventually, NetherRealm and DC would return to the Injustice universe in their biggest game yet, Injustice 2 released in May 2017 for the PS4 and Xbox One. Taking place a few years after the defeat of Superman's regime, Injustice 2 sees Earth-49 come under threat by the alien cosmic collector Brainiac, determined to collect Superman and his cousin, the newly discovered Supergirl.
I can hear the people down there. All of them. They're afraid, like I was on Krypton when I didn't have these powers. And I look at us and I just think, we can give them hope.
Batman and Superman are forced to put their ideals aside and work together one final time in order to protect Earth from becoming a part of Brainiac's collection. Injustice 2, like its predecessor, was received extremely well, with the game selling over 1.5 million copies in the first 3 months of its release. While many saw the narrative Injustice 2 as a slight downgrade from the first game, the sequel was praised for its improved gameplay, addictive customization mechanics, and a variety of new characters, including the Red Lantern Atrocitus and the Swamp Thing.
Do plants feel pain, Swamp Thing? All life has emotion. Let's find out what angers you.
It even went on to win the Best Fighting Game honor for 2017's Game Awards. Injustice 2 also saw a digital exclusive prequel comic series released by DC to coincide with the game release and explore the events that took place between the games. Once again written by Tom Taylor, the series was illustrated primarily by Bruno Redondo as its lead artist. The narrative of the comic focuses on Batman struggling to rebuild the world's government following the imprisonment of Superman at the end of the first game. Just like the original comic series, shocking events were seen throughout the 72 digital issue run, including but not limited to Ra's al Ghul flooding the US Capitol with the help of Aqualad, General Zod killing Tim Drake Robin, the giant starfish Starro the Conqueror becoming a Red Lantern of Rage, and Killer Croc and Orca getting married in Gorilla City. Several DLC characters were added later on in Injustice 2's lifetime, like the previously mentioned Sub-Zero and Raiden, in addition to Red Hood, Starfire, Black Manta, the Atom, Enchantress, and surprise newcomers such as Dark Horse's Hellboy and Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, much to fans' surprise.
You're why I woke up today?
Major opponents coming up.
I should have slept in.
The success of Injustice cannot be understated. Its storytelling and gameplay achievements launched NetherRealm and DC to become genre giants in the 2010s. Injustice and Mortal Kombat made NetherRealm the undisputed king of modern fighting games, and the tie-in comics ensured DC remained a top publisher within the comic book industry. Its influence can be found in practically every medium of the entertainment world, from simple mobile games to million-dollar studio films. Sadly, talks for a potential Injustice 3 have remained relatively silent since Injustice 2 released 6 years ago, save for the occasional teaser joke from Ed Boon on Twitter. While NetherRealm continues to work on Mortal Kombat with the recently revealed development of Mortal Kombat 12, the development of a third Injustice appears to be in the hands of DC and Warner Brothers. With recent creative and studio shakeups at DC and Warner Brothers, an upcoming release of a third Injustice remains unlikely. However, that doesn't mean fans are without Injustice content. In 2018 through 2019, DC released a 6-issue sequel comic to the bad ending of Injustice 2 that was, oddly enough, a crossover with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Written by Tim Seeley and illustrated by Freddie Williams II, the crossover sees Batman travel to Eternia to seek the aid of He-Man and his allies after Superman rebuilt his tyrannical regime with the help of Brainiac's technology. Needless to say, this was not the sequel to Injustice 2 fans desired. In 2020 through 2021, DC released a 14-issue prequel comic set before any of the previous Injustice events. Written by Tom Taylor and illustrated by Roger Antonio, Injustice Year Zero explores what happened to the Justice Society of America in the Injustice universe, and explains why most of these heroes don't appear in any of the previous Injustice stories, save for the occasional DLC appearance in the video games. In 2021, Warner Brothers Animation and DC Entertainment released an R-rated animated film adaptation of Injustice as the 43rd installment in the DC Universe animated original movie line. Directed by Matt Peters, the film is a loose adaptation of the original Injustice game in the tie-in prequel comics. Set in a different continuity from the main Injustice storyline, the film was received poorly by both critics and fans, with many claiming it to be an unfaithful adaptation to its source material and being unable to properly convey its complex themes in the film's 78-minute runtime. Injustice 2021 currently has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 40% audience score. Finally, in 2023, Tom Taylor recently began a new ongoing series with artist Clayton Henry titled Adventures of Superman John Kent. In this series, John Kent, the son of Superman from the main DC universe, explores the multiverse after supermen from multiple dimensions begin to mysteriously be murdered. Here, John Kent will come in direct contact with Superman from the Injustice universe and must come to terms with how his father can turn into such a tyrant in a world where his family was destroyed. These rather mixed entries in Injustice's long history haven't stopped fans and critics eagerly waiting for an eventual third game, however, as anytime DC or NetherRealm hosts an announcement event, the comment sections are filled with thousands of demands for new games to close the possible trilogy. Injustice is a game rooted in a long history of both the comic book and video game mediums, and exemplifies the storytelling strengths of both platforms. While a third game may not be on the near horizon, fans can still hope the war between a dictatorial Superman and the freedom-fighting Batman to reach its final conclusion gamers and readers deserves. If Injustice teaches its players anything, it's that hope is a powerful force, and the loss of one's hope will only lead to suffering. Now the fate of Injustice is in the hands of WB and DC, and with that in mind, we only have one thing to say.
What's it going to be?
Thanks for watching this retrospective/documentary on the history of Injustice. What do you guys think of Injustice? Do you enjoy its story, or do you think its evil depiction of Superman has negatively affected the DC universe? Do you think WB should release Injustice 3? And if so, who do you want to have on the roster? Let us know in the comments below, and stay tuned for more video essays like this one.